Hi, hello, happy Sabbath and Shabbat Shalom. If you remember, I was working on this mower here a while back. I've been working on other things this week, but also this mower. And the fact is that what happened is I got another exercise bike, and I stripped down it and parts of the other one that I already had. And I found that it has these real nifty little bearing sets in here like so. And well, I think I'm going to use these two bearing sets and their frame support mechanism to potentially build myself a balancing device. It'll take more than just sticking them in there, obviously, because that's a very kind of confined area. But I'm thinking what I can do with that, if I'm very careful, is I can get myself a weighted counterweight system that is adequate to counter the action of this mechanism here. Because while the mechanism itself may or may not appear to be too severely out of balance, the very fact that the way it's built is very severely out of balance. That little cam on that upper wheel goes in here, throws this weight this way while this weight goes that way. Well, it really isn't lined up properly for the way this angle of this bar is and the angle of that weight is. This piece swivels, and like so, and that creates its own stress. And so basically what happens is this piece is janking back and forth and it's flopping all over the place, and it creates sub-harmonic and cross-harmonic imbalances that I've got to figure out how to put balance together again. And if you remember, I've welded part of it, and I've got more framing to build onto it to weld it even tougher together to make it stronger. Well, I also need to figure out how I can use those two bearing axle shafts to make counterbalances. Because realistically, the best possible place to put the counterweights isn't all back behind that thing. Technically, it's right above it. Partly because of the fact that this is the pivot point, but partly because of the fact that that's a pivot point. So you want a certain amount of counterweight equally on both sides of it, and at the same time you want enough counterweight to deal with the switchback of this, like so. So I got a lot of math to do, and I'll possibly build a frame that sits out here over the top of this thing, so it may look rapidly very distinctly different. I'll probably have to cut me some steel that goes around the counterweight boxes and build in there. I have yet to commit to that, but because I'll probably end up with one weight inside there if I can get it to fit beneath the axle. It'll have to be beneath the axle. And then I'll have another weight over the top, possibly, that fits here above this cutter. A lot of planning to do, because I need them all to not just counter this motion this direction. I also need to counter each other going that direction, because they're going to make a forward and backwards motion all in of themselves, and you need the two of them so that they don't create new balance problems. And one of the reasons for having that, if I can get all the balance weights just right, this thing will run so smooth it'll just be like practically not moving at all. The other option is to make it like a jerry mower, which is totally different. With a jerry mower, you have the motor. I've got horizontal shaft engines, big ones in fact, back in there. 8 horsepower somewhere back in there. Yeah, I've got that one right there. 8 horsepower industrial commercial Briggs and Stratton. That thing has got real rip and snort power. In which case, very little of this original chassis would remain the same. Very little. because I'd have to have a drive shaft out to the front. I still have to have a counterbalance. But if you've ever seen the counterbalance on an old sickle bar mower like the old timers had, it's back in the weeds over here. The way this one is built is actually better because of the fact that it is capable for quite a bit. It's capable of counteracting the forces. There's Mr. Snookums over here eating. So anyhow, if you look at these, their sickle bar mower blade has this you see there's a pulley coming off of a PTO shaft, and that PTO shaft goes to this bearing and that bearing there, and has a counterweight on it, and that counterweight drives the shaft across through here. That flexible piece lays down, and there's a drive shaft goes through there and makes it oscillate from that point across there. More efficient, bigger and heavier, and not exactly the same thing you'd want to run push by hand because it weighs, I don't know, 190 pounds, something like that. Not very light. But obviously one's for a tractor, one's supposed to be its own machine. So, you know, kind of got to get them both for their own size range. One's for cutting the big part of the field, one's for cutting little small areas. Like in here, where I can't get the big bar in here, I could get that little mower in here and clear up this stuff real good. Even if I had to move some of the items out of the way so I don't cut into them or bounce off of them harmlessly. I stripped out, other than those two bearing shafts I was showing you on those exercise bike frames. Of course, I stripped off some other exercise bike frame parts that I stuck up here, and I'll probably get them all together in one place. So this is from the latest. They're both similar, I forget what kind of weird oblique track machines. But this is all for my future Hopes quadricycle. And these devices here, little cranks come off the feet. They mount to that those D-shaped, they call double D flat bearing shafts. I don't know that I'll use them for that, but if I have to, they're made already, and so I'll probably end up using that expressly for the purpose of making the counterweights. In fact, in theory, I can put a starter ring around each of those to match them up to each other, and then add and subtract weight on each peg of it to get it to very precise amounts of balance without having to add too much additional technological complication to it. So the reason there's a whole bunch of iron and nail railroad spikes out here is because I was working on other projects. I was back working on my vacuum, dirt vacuum machine here. It's over there. It may not look much different at the moment, but I've got you see the PVC pipe fittings coming out of the bottom of that, top of it, I mean really, top of that inlet. And I've been working on building a part. Let me flip this over a second here. So that piece right there fits in here. Now, yes, I did cut an area for that, and I will end up cutting this aluminum piece that I custom mounted. I'll come in here and take my marker and clear that. And so when I'm done, and I'll have to anchor it a couple places. What this is a skirt, because that doesn't go all the way down. If you look down in there, there's some squishy pipe insulation. That's a gasket. And all the white tape is a seal tape to, well, some of the white tape's holding the gasket in place. Now to flip it over, on the end I put an inlet in here that I welded. I took a hole saw and I cut a couple of the large washers I had, a couple pieces of angle iron, and weld together a spreader so that I can have a hose adapter for the 45-foot long black vacuum hose that'll fit in here. And then on top, this piece right here is designed to sit right down on there. And then I just got to make there's a safety switch in there I've got to disable by bypassing it. Because without it, with that safety switch, somebody had to fix it already. You see there's a screw in here. It's stuck through the plastic. That's because this thing lost its little clicker thingy on there, and it's supposed to have this piece on there so that you don't get your fingers caught in there. Well, since this thing's going to be boxed up in that, I really don't need that. I don't tend to stick my hand up in the bottom of my leaf blower anyhow. So generally speaking, that'll go on there like that, and then this whole mechanism, as you see it, it'll have to have a sleeve, a collar on it, so that the whole combined mechanism will drop down on top of this black plastic pickle barrel here. So they're almost precisely the very same diameter, so I need to make an adapter so that it'll fit in there, and I'll be able to drop the one down on top of the other, so that as I suck up dirt, it'll all go through the cyclonic separator, fall out into that container. And when that container's full, the whole thing will be sitting up on the back of this truck, and I'll just tip it over onto the truck bed. I'll have to put the sidewalls back on it. They won't hold a lot, but they'll hold over 2 tons of dirt. I say it won't hold a lot. Volumetrically it won't hold a lot, but mass-wise, like I say, I got to replace my box in the middle where it was destroyed, but that's not a big deal. And so when I'm done, this area will be able to be filled up with the garden dirt, and it'll be taken from up at the barn, up at the milk room. See, there's that 45-foot long piece of vacuum hose all taped together, and then it will all go, I'll shovel it off over here. Mr. Snookums, what you doing? Here's Mr. Snookums. You see where that piece of plywood is next to that little headlight sticking out of that quad runner there? All that area there will end up being where I put that. There's Mr. O'Malley over there. Yeah. So I'll put all the soil right in this area here after I move a bunch of stuff out. And that'll be where it goes until we sift some back out, and then I can use the vacuum machine anytime I want to lift some out, as long as it stays dry under this roof. Hopefully it'll stay dry like the last batch did, and I'll be able to move it to and from as I need it to put it in garden plots. Now up here, I don't know if I explained that along between where that pavilion is, it's going to be moved at some point. And you see where there's a line of, let me walk up there. See, you see there was some cement blocks over there. At that corner going this direction, there's a concrete slab. And I want to move that pavilion out of there and put it somewhere else and use it, modify it up to be a chicken house, put walls on it and stuff. And then I'm going to put a raised bed garden up on that. And in the middle of that raised bed garden will be some of these old refrigerators over here, and then the outside will probably be cement blocks. or something like that, filled up with soil. Well, we won't probably start that until next year. But anyhow, the idea is that these old refrigerators can make good raised bed garden boxes. They may not last forever. I'll probably line them with something to make them a little less prone to rust. But I'll probably put them up on something to keep them off the ground so they're a little less prone to rust. Like we've got some bricks I can put them on. So these refrigerators will hold quite a bit of soil, quite a depth and decent volume. And they're fairly uniform in size. Not that they have to be exactly. Plants don't care. I don't care. Anyhow, and I've got more refrigerators to carry off. And then the other thing occurred to me this week is that right down here, the bottom of this, I don't know if anybody's ever even bothered to wonder, this is a little old house foundation. And so there's a concrete slab underneath all that. And what I can do is clean all that off. It's probably some pretty good organic dirt, and there's some concrete pieces I need to move out of there anyhow. But I can go in there and clean off the chunks of concrete that are like this, a footing like concrete. And there's bunches of it. I can aim over there. See, there's some concrete footing there. And then there's some more in there that's not easily seen from here. Anyhow, the idea is clear this out and put more raised bed gardens in there. It's just my mimosa tree will have to go, and I don't know if I'll have to get rid of that cedar tree or not. I'm going to probably limb it up anyhow a little bit just so that it's a little straighter. And then I may or may not limb up some of that sycamore. I don't know. We'll see. So that'll give me two places to have raised bed gardens in the short haul while I'm setting up eventually to get in here and do the big greenhouse job and finish it. By the way, I'd mentioned this before. I said I wouldn't be surprised if those surprise lilies wasn't going to try to surprise me again. And lo and behold, I can't even tell you now if it's the third or the fourth batch to come up, because I really don't remember how many different groups. I know for a fact 2 other batches. They all came out of the ground about the same time during the spring. I say about the same time. They were up for a long time. But this batch right here is the 3rd round of a group popping up out of the ground flowering. So there's at least 3, if not 4, sets of surprise lily blossom bloomings going on this year. From, I don't know, several months ago now. No, it hadn't been several months. It's been at most a month and a half. Hard to say. I lose track of time. Hard for me to say. I could probably go back and look at my own videos and know. Anyhow, so more surprise lilies came up. Again, I'm honestly not surprised. Gladiolas did not flower, unfortunately. Sadly. Neither did the crepe myrtles. Waxweed's coming out a little bit, but not very much this year. We had loads of waxweed in the past. This must have just come down from up there recently. Stretch my leg on it. But some of these branches, again, that's the little pen where I want to put Gretel, so that she can have a safe place. I'll have to raise up the fence high enough that Mr. Snook and Mr. O'Malley can't get in there and join her and tear her up, because they will. And so I got to go in there and put a wall up higher with more fence wire. Higher with more wire. Now, last thing I want to look at today, see if my little hopeful transplanted propagation of a blackberry has survived. It wasn't looking too good last time I looked at it. after it lost a lot of its leaves, but it still had some tender leaves at the outer edge. So hopefully, as the weather's cooled and we've had just slight bits of dampness, maybe it's going to tough it out and last long enough to get past this hot dry spell without just keeling over and dying. If not, we'll just have to probably buy some more thornless blackberries. If I can propagate them myself, great. If I can't, well, then I'll just have to buy a bunch that somebody else has already made cuttings from and rooted them for me. Because, you know, it's just one of them deals. See down here. Well, if I didn't know any better, I'd say it's actually grown some. Yeah, it's got new leaves coming out of it. It may pull through and live. Who knows? Again, I have to keep this on here because of critters eating it. So, even though it could get more sunlight, I don't think it needs a lot more sunlight at this point, because they're usually good at living in brush piles and under heavy underbrush. No problem. Eventually that whole area where from this road, where the edge of down to that road and over to that fence behind them cedar trees and over to that road is hopefully going to be a large blackberry area. And then up here might also be, I don't know. We'll see. Depends on a lot of things. I'd like to be able to raise fruits like that for sale at some point, and or for making wine from. I don't know if it was Mr. O'Malley and Mr. Snookums or if it was the deer, but something's been eating the leaves off these grapevines near the ground real good. Trimming them down. So, oh well, that one hasn't successfully made any fruit anyhow since ever that I'm aware of. So it is what it is. I'm going to nip everything down and keep it low though, because and this tree died. It seems all the ash have died. I don't know if it's something like that emerald ash borer or what, but I've got to get them down, especially since it's big enough that it can fall on that power line. And I don't want any trouble with the power company. So once I get sunshine running, I'm going to get in here and knock that over. I'll probably take it from the direction we're standing and knock it that direction. And anything that doesn't break off, I'll just take a saw and cut it up and drag the log around. Eventually I need to get up in there and get my pole saw working. Get up in there and trim and limb some of these things up so they're tall and straight, so that they end up being good vertical wood. That one ivy vine, the wind blew it loose from the tree. Still alive, it's just sitting over there between two trees. And this thing's lost to a lot of branches. It needs to be cleaned up real well, but it ain't dead yet. And then that thing, it's been losing branches off and on forever, but it's still alive. So how long will it be here? I don't know. Probably till I cut it down, because I don't want it falling on the barn. It's going to be a booger. Wish I had myself a bucket truck. If I had a bucket truck, I could get all that stuff done. We shall see what we shall see. That tree looks like it's dying. I don't know what's wrong with it. It looks like something sprayed it. In fact, what's kind of scary is that little flower plant underneath it looks like it's dying too. I don't know if it's the same thing. If it is, I might lose. I went to a lot of effort to try to save that thing. If I lose it, I won't be happy. Well, it does look like some kind of disease has gotten a hold of something over here and is killing this shelly bark hickory. If it's dying, then I'll have to get it out of there, because it could, I don't know if that'll spread to other trees. The last thing I need is to lose all my nut trees because one thing is they're good hardwood, and the other is if I could graft them with pecans. Speaking of pecans, I theoretically have one that survived germination long enough to even survive nearly dying of drought. And how long it will live from this point forward is just as much a mystery as everything else, but it has made it from a little rootlet sticking out of a nut to about, I don't know, maybe 12 inches tall, something like that. And so far the boys haven't destroyed it yet. It looks pretty bad. That's partly because of the fact it almost died of dehydration. This little pecan here, it's just a small pecan though too. It's not a big paper shell, it's just a small pecan. But it's alive. So maybe I can grow it up someday and put it out in the field somewhere and have pecans growing off of it, or graft it to a paper shell. We'll see. Well, that's about everything I can think of this month, week. Well, I can't keep track of time. And I've rambled on for a long time now. Actually had to redo this once, because I went and tried to do it and the thing was completely out of focus. That's no good. So, those little fun sunflower things, a couple of them are still flowering. Waxweed are up, but not very many of them. We're almost done flowering for the year. And most anything else, well, there's, of course, asters haven't come out yet. Asters are going to be coming out here pretty soon. And then a few others that are kind of in there for late fall flowers. We'll see how it goes. Of course, oh, my brain went dead. Lespedeza will flower. A few things will flower here and there. But till next Sabbath, hopefully I've got more to say about something then than I do now. Shalom.